guys, what's up? It's Debbie, but I'm not doing True Crimes of Criminal Minds this week. This week, I'm doing a Halloween episode. I will try to get a Criminal Minds video out later this week, though, but no promises, but I will try. If you've never been to my channel before, welcome. What I usually do is I look at an episode of Criminal Minds, and then I do a true crime case that is similar, mentioned in the episode, or the episode was based on the case. But that's not what I'm doing today, because it's Halloween! Happy Halloween, everybody! This is my second favorite holiday. Unfortunately, my kids are grown, and I'm old. So I don't get to celebrate it anymore. I don't have costume parties to go to, and we live out in the country, so I can't even hand out candy to trick-or-treaters. Like, it kind of bums me out. But I did wear my Halloween shirt. Michael Myers. I got this at, wrong shoulder. I got this at Halloween Horror Nights last year. But during the day, before the haunted houses opened. Because I'm claustrophobic. I don't like haunted houses because I'm claustrophobic. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So. And welcome back, returning viewers. I love you guys. I'm glad you're back. This is the story of the man who ruined Halloween. So let's go ahead and get started. Have you guys heard about the dangers of trick-or-treating? Has any child ever been poisoned by their Halloween candy? Do you only let your kids trick-or-treat at malls, safe neighborhoods, fire stations, churches, and other safe places? Would you be surprised to learn that there has never been a case where a child was poisoned by Halloween candy given to them by a stranger? And I'm probably going to catch some flack in the comments, but every source that I looked at says the same thing. No one has ever been poisoned with Halloween candy that they got from a stranger. From a stranger. So don't come at me. This case is the reason that all of these urban legends and safe trick-or-treating locations exist. 2 weeks prior to Halloween in 1974 in Deer Park, Texas, Ronald Clark O'Bryan came home with Halloween costumes for his kids. Now, this was not his norm. He didn't like Halloween. He didn't celebrate Halloween. But this year was different. Timmy had wanted a Planet of the Apes costume. Not the more recent ones. This happened in 1974. This is the Planet of Apes back in the 70s. That's my Planet of the Apes. Like, the remakes, awful. A week before Halloween, Ronald and his friend Jim Bates decided to have dinner together and then take the kids trick-or-treating where he lives in Pasadena, Texas. So it's finally Halloween. The kids are all excited. Can you imagine? You're ready to go trick-or-treating. You're 8 years old. You're all excited. And then you have to sit through a dinner party? Like, I would be so upset. Be like, no, we don't need to eat. We need candy. Let's go. Both of the men had 2 kids each. Ronald's kids were Timmy, 8, and Elizabeth, 5. I don't know the genders or the ages of Jim's kids, but one of them was a toddler. So they didn't want to take the toddler trick-or-treating. So the women stayed home with the baby, and the men took the other 3 kids trick-or-treating. It was a cold, rainy, miserable night, so they stuck to 2 streets around where Jim lived. Because they thought, well, if there's a downpour and we need to get home quickly, we'll be closer. One of the last stops of the night was kind of strange, though. There was no light on, and everybody knows, what does it mean when there's no porch light on Halloween? It means we don't have any candy, don't even try it, right? So There was no light on the porch, but Ronald was like, no, I'll go up there and knock on the door anyway. So Jim and the kids stayed back at the road. And there was no answer at first when Ronald knocked on the door. But then he came back with 5 pixie sticks. 21-inch pixie sticks, not the little tiny paper ones, the big plastic tubes of pixie sticks. He gave 4 of them to the kids, to his friends' kids and his kids. And then he saw a boy that he knew from their church, a 10-year-old boy, and then he gave that kid the 5th pixie stick. So when they got home, Timmy wanted to know if he could have just 1 piece of candy before bed. So Ronald told him yes and convinced him to try the pixie stick. It was stapled closed and his dad helped him open it. Tim took a big swig of the sugary powder and said it tasted bitter. So Ronald gave him something sweet to drink to counteract the bitterness. Then, this is heartbreaking and so scary, Tim started convulsing and vomiting. They called the ambulance, and unfortunately, Timmy died on the way to the hospital. Now the police had a murder investigation on their hands. Tim's stomach was pumped at the hospital, which I didn't know they did that after you died unless it was like in the autopsy. Maybe it was in the autopsy. Anyway, they found 16 milligrams of cyanide in his stomach. And it only takes 0.1 to 0.3 milligrams to kill a full-grown adult. And this 8-year-old little boy had 16 milligrams of cyanide in his stomach. The police called the other recipients of the pixie sticks to tell them not to let the kids have them. Can you imagine getting that call? Your kid just got some pixie sticks for Halloween. Don't let him eat them. It's laced with cyanide. You imagine? Oh my God. That has to be like every parent's worst nightmare. They frantically ran to their son's room, and he was asleep in the bed. He had the pixie stick clutched in his hand, but it was still stapled shut. He couldn't get the staple off of it, and then he fell asleep while he was trying. So he was asleep with a pixie stick in his hand, which the parents were extremely grateful for. And none of the other kids ate the candy that killed little Timmy. They asked Ronald what house he got the pixie sticks from, but Ronald couldn't remember. So they asked him what the person looked like. And he said, I didn't see a person, I only saw a hairy arm. Now, if you just saw a hairy arm, like someone was hiding behind the door and didn't want to be seen, but you got a hairy arm snaking out the door with pixie sticks, are you going to take those pixie sticks? I'm not. I'm going to go the other way, because that's just creepy. But maybe he was a Halloween prankster. Who knows? They had Ronald and Jim walk the neighborhood 3 times. They walked 3 times. Now remember, they only went down 2 roads. It's not hard to figure out which house they went to. But neither one of them could find the house. Finally, Ronald found it. The police then got a hold of the owner, whose name was Courtney Melvin. He was an air traffic controller, and he was working that night and didn't get home until 11 p.m. He said that his wife and daughter were home, but they had run out of candy, so they turned the porch light out. He also said that he had 200 co-workers that could confirm his alibi. And he said of the candy that they did give out, they didn't have any pixie sticks at all. So the police started looking closer at Ronald. Ronald Clark O'Bryan was born October 19th, 1944. He was married to Dayneen, and he was an optician for Texas State Optical. He was a church deacon at Second Baptist Church and ran the bus program for the church as well as singing in the choir. Ronald could not hold a job. He had 21 jobs in a 10-year period. That's like 6 months a job. No, even less than 6 months a job. He had secretly sold their house, Can you imagine people come to move in your house and you're like, we didn't sell you our house. Oh no, honey, I sold you the house. I'm sorry, my morbid sense of humor kicks in with this story. So I'm probably going to be a little giggly. You'll have to forgive me. His car was about to be repossessed and he had debts totaling over $100,000. I have no idea what he did with the money. Like, no idea. Because I couldn't find it. Just that he was heavily in debt. He'd secretly sold the house and his car was going to be repossessed. And he was about to lose his job because he'd been stealing from them. He had taken out several life insurance policies on his 2 children. $10,000 policies that totaled $60,000. So he took more than one out on the kids. I don't think he took any insurance policies out on anybody else. The other 3 pixie sticks were to be like a cover story. Because like if this man, he had like no conscience. Because the other 3 sticks were to cover up the deaths of his own children. So they wouldn't look at him. They would think that 5 kids got poisoned pixie sticks. That is just despicable. Don't poison kids. That's what? Make an honest living. Make your own money. Buy a cheaper house. Whatever you have to do, but don't. Your kids are not your cash cows. You can't just kill them and get the insurance money. That's not how that works. In 1972, Ronald had visited a chemical company in Houston and asked a lot of questions about cyanide. But he didn't purchase any at that time because they only have 5-pound bags and he didn't need that much. But his friends and coworkers said that he had become obsessed with cyanide. That he wanted to know how much needed to kill a person. He was always asking questions, where can I get it? Or reading books about it. Like, he was obsessed. Ronald wore a raincoat on Halloween, which it was a rainy night, so that makes perfect sense, right? So that was something he couldn't have planned, but it worked out perfectly for his intentions. What he did, he bought the pixie sticks. He took the top off of them and poured the candy out and replaced about 2 inches at the top of cyanide. And cyanide looks like sugar. And then he stapled the top closed. He had them hidden up the sleeve of his raincoat. He went up to the house thinking that nobody's going to answer the door. The porch light's out. They don't have any candy left. So I'm just going to go up here and pretend I'm going to get these pixie sticks from this house. So then, out of sight from the kids and his friend Jim up by the road, he took the candy out of the sleeve of his raincoat and came back down to where the kids were with the pixie sticks in his hand and passed them out to the kids. The very next day, this scumbag tried to collect the insurance money on his son. And then he told someone at the funeral he was going to use the life insurance money to go on vacation. Really, dude? You're in debt up to your eyeballs. You've killed your son for the insurance money, and then you're gonna go on vacation? What the heck? The police decided that they had enough evidence to arrest him, and Ronald continued to insist that he didn't do it. In the interview, one of the policemen said, "Tell me." And Ronald said, "Tell you what?" He was arrested for first-degree murder and 4 counts of attempted murder. He pleaded not guilty and went to trial. It took the jury just 46 minutes to decide that he was guilty. And then, in the death penalty phase of the trial, it took them 71 minutes to decide that he should get the death penalty. Carol Pickett was the prison chaplain back then. And she had said that the inmates on death row usually respect each other and they form this kind of bond. But she said all of the inmates on death row hated who they called the Candyman. Ronald was on death row for 8 years. I have never done a case where articles have told me what they had as the last meal, except for this one. He had a last meal of a T-bone steak with fries, ketchup, sweet peas, corn, a salad with French dressing and saltines, rolls, and a Boston cream pie for dessert. His last words were, quote, "What is about to transpire in a few moments is wrong. However, we as human beings do make mistakes and errors. This execution is one of those wrongs. Yet doesn't mean our whole system of justice is wrong. Therefore, I would forgive all who have taken part in any way in my death. Also, to anyone I have offended in any way during my 39 years, I pray and ask your forgiveness just as I forgive anyone who offended me in any way. And I pray and ask God's forgiveness for all of us respectively as human beings. To my loved ones, I extend my undying love. To those close to me, know in your hearts I love you one and all. God bless you all, and may God's best blessings be always yours. Signed, Ronald C. O'Bryan. P.S. During my time here, I have been treated well by TDC personnel." End quote. Why did he feel the need to put that P.S. on the end? I don't get it. He was put to death by lethal injection on March 13th, 1984. And people gathered outside of the prison just like they did for Ted Bundy. And they had signs and t-shirts and all kinds of stuff. And they were chanting "trick or treat," which I find poetic. And I really like that. His wife divorced him. She got remarried. And her new husband adopted her daughter. There has never been a documented case of someone being poisoned by a stranger via candy on Halloween. There have been some deaths that were originally attributed to Halloween candy, but they found out that it wasn't the candy. In 1970, little 5-year-old Kevin Toston died after a night of trick-or-treating. He went into a coma, and they found that he had heroin in his system. But it wasn't from the candy. The candy did have traces of heroin in it, but that's not what happened. He got into his uncle's drug stash. That's why he had heroin in his system. And then the adults, in all their wonderful wisdom, decided to sprinkle some heroin on the candy so that nobody would know about the uncle's drug stash. And Kevin didn't make it. In 1978, 2-year-old Patrick Widerhold of Flint, Michigan died after eating Halloween candy. He wasn't poisoned though. He died of natural causes. And I'm not sure what kind of natural causes a 2-year-old dies from, but there you have it. In 1985, ABC News and the Washington Post had a poll about whether parents were afraid to take their kids trick-or-treating. The poll showed that 60% of parents were afraid. In 1990, 7-year-old Ariel Katz from Santa Monica, California died after Halloween, but he died from an enlarged heart. In 2001, a 4-year-old girl in Vancouver died of a strep infection shortly after Halloween. All of these mistaken deaths that had nothing to do with Halloween candy prompted the safe trick-or-treating places that I mentioned at the top of the episode. Advice columnists like, Dear Abby, and, well, maybe you don't know, because I think they're kind of a thing in the past, but there used to be in newspapers. You guys know what a newspaper is, right? I'm old, y'all, so I don't know if you know or not. I guess newspapers are still around, though. Some people still read newspapers. Anyway, They have advice columns in it, and then you write a letter into the person. If they like the question that you ask them, then they'll do it in their little comment and give you your answer. So, like Dear Abby and those kind of advice columnists, they were warning parents of the dangers of Halloween. The last time I went trick-or-treating, I was 10 or 11, and my dad said it was just too dangerous. But I thought, yeah, right, it's too dangerous. I mean, I'm 11. What do I know? So we were not the type of people that made our own costumes. My brothers got dressed up as girls for Halloween. I got store-bought costumes. So this year, I wasn't allowed to go trick-or-treating, and I thought maybe it's because of the money. They don't want to buy me a costume this year. So I went in my closet and I put together this, what I thought was this rad Cleopatra costume. I had like a little pleated white tennis skirt with a white, like, sleeveless top tank. I had a bunch of makeup on. I had, which I don't know where I got it if I was only 11, because I know my parents didn't let me wear makeup back then. I must have snuck into my mom's makeup. I don't know. I don't remember. I do remember, though, having a lot of red lipstick on. And jewelry everywhere, dripping from everywhere. Like, I thought it was so cool. Nope, they still wouldn't take me trick-or-treating. I was so mad. As an adult, I always took my stepdaughters to, there's a neighborhood in our town that they go all out for Halloween. Every house is decorated. You can't even drive down the street because it's nothing but kids trick-or-treating. And my cousins live on that street, and what they did every year for years was they decked out their house like crazy. They've been Frankenstein and the Wolfman. They've been ghosts. They've been witches. They've been spider people. The last year that they did it, they dressed up as, she was Moana and my cousin was Maui. And like, he had the muscled shirt. Like, he didn't have muscles, but he had the shirt that had the muscles in them, you know? And he had written on it to make like the tattoos that looked like Maui's tattoos. It was so cool. And then one year, I took the girls to Walt Disney World to Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, which I love. I don't like Universal's Halloween Horror Nights. When I went, I've been one time. The first haunted house we went to, I'm pushing the guy in front of me through the whole thing. When we got out, I'm like, I am so sorry. So one year we took the girls to Mickey's Not So Very Scary. And I was Snow White. The girls, now they make their own costumes. They've always made their own costumes. And the oldest one, her costumes are so amazing. One year she went as Wednesday, and this was before the new Netflix show. She had a headless doll, and she did this all night. She never cracked a smile. She barely spoke. It was so funny. But people kept calling her Lydia. They thought she was Lydia from Beetlejuice. She looked nothing like Lydia from Beetlejuice. She looked like... Anyway, I digress. So, she made a Harley Quinn costume. She made my younger stepdaughters a Little Mermaid costume. And my husband is a stick in the mud, so he just had a t-shirt on that said, like, this isn't my Halloween t-shirt or something like that. Nowadays, Halloween is just another day for us, but I still love the spooky season. I love horror movies. I love horror books. I'm a huge Stephen King fan. Don't put me in a haunted house, though. Do not. So, you guys have a great time tonight. Be very careful. Use, like the little glow stick thingies or a flashlight or something. to keep you safe in the dark, and beware of poison pixie sticks, and don't go to any houses that don't have the porch light on. Happy Halloween, everybody! And don't forget, be kind to people, especially tonight. Love your family, and I will see you. Hopefully, later this week, I will get a Criminal Minds video out. So, you guys have a great time. I wish I was going trick-or-treating with y'all. I will see you next time. Bye, guys.